everybody. Welcome to Introduction to History Databases. My name is Kim Hughes. I am a librarian at the West Campus. Today, our agenda is pretty straightforward. We are going to talk about how to access the library databases. We're going to look at what is available, and then we're going to do some hands-on searching. So, if you start at the college's main page, www.mdc.edu, and you hover over the ribbon at the top, you'll see the word academics. The pull-down menu comes up, and we are going to libraries.
Yeah,
Sure.
Great.
Good. Once we are on the library's main page, in the middle, you're going to see Search the Library Catalog. This is wonderful if you have something specific you're looking for, the title of a journal, an article, if you know an author, if you want to see if we have it. This is everything the library owns. Instead, in that box, we are going to the word databases. This will make our searching a little bit more strategic. It'll put us in the proper categories. And what you're going to see is an A to Z list of everything that the library has access to. In the top left corner, you will see a pull-down menu option for subject. If you'll select that and pick history. You good? You're on the history.
Done.
Perfect. And that's the page I'm going to start from when it's live. But I did put some of the recommended, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but what you're going to find is that it's a wide range. Some are going to specialize in primary sources. Some are going to specialize in journal articles. You said you were looking for newspapers and periodicals. There's the New York Times Historical, which is amazing if you are looking for old-timey articles, etc. So I'm going to stop sharing this one and start sharing A to Z. And you should be on a page that looks like this.
Yes.
So first, I'm going to point out that Jenny Saxon is actually on the call with us. She is the library liaison for history. So if you do need something generally related to history, if you need materials or other kinds of help, you could always reach out to her. She maintains this page. So up at the top where it says best bets, I always kind of joke that's the pick me. She's the one who says these are the best things that we have. And I absolutely agree. So that's where we're going to start. You'll also notice that we have access to library guides, LibGuides. They are various subjects on all kinds of things. Sometimes they are topic related, and you can see the top one is related to 9/11 and resources. Some of them are going to be for sources that the library has, etc. So I would look down here if you're not familiar with the amazing FCLE resources that MDC has. This is one of the most popular LibGuides in the state of Florida. Right now, it's averaging about 100,000 hits per year. So there's a wide range. The LibGuides, everybody has access to. Those are available on the World Wide Web. Anybody who has access to Google and the internet can find the library LibGuides. The library databases, however, do require a MDC username and password. And I have already logged in today. This is my computer at work, so it's not going to pop up. But when you click on one of these databases, you will get a single sign-on, and that is going to be a student username and their password, the same one they use for Canvas and email and everything else at MDC. So I'm going to start with the top one, History Reference Center by EBSCO. And this is what I will consider to be a standard database. When we look at it, you're going to see 3 search boxes. This is where we're going to put in terms, phrases, no more than keywords generally. And then you're going to see a linker. We have in library search terms, Boolean operators. This is how we make something into a complex search. So if I had a question and I was looking for resources on World War I, maybe that is too general. I need to make that specific. If I'm looking for articles on specific battles, in my top field, I would have World War I and battles. All of those terms need to be in an article for it to be returned. And so that's our basics of searching. We also have the ability to control where we're searching. So I generally put this on all text, keyword, because then it is searching just that. It is looking through every single field in that article. But I can limit this to the title of the article, the abstract of the article. I can limit it by journal. I can limit it by author. So many different opportunities and choices for our search criteria. Other things to point out, and this is where our individual databases, instead of the larger EBSCO, the general search, where it becomes significant. So for the history databases, they actually say, do you want to search here, 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 or here? You don't have to limit it, but you can. Maybe there's a term that has multiple meanings. Maybe there's a person who has been in multiple time periods. Maybe there's something that's a little bit generic and you want to make sure you are looking at the correct time or the correct location. So if one of these is selected, and you can see the United States first, broken down by various time periods, and then towards the bottom, world history, again by time periods, that's a choice a user can make. It's not necessary. Things we do want to make sure, though, is that we click full text. If we do not select full text, we'll get more results, but we may hit a paywall, we may not have access to it, we may only get the abstract, and so we want to make sure we have access to the complete document. You can see there's some other things that we can choose from here as well. If we want those articles to be peer-reviewed, and this is a big one, if we want to limit it by grade level, etc., which for our purposes, we probably don't. And then, of course, our search. So, is there a particular topic in history that you're fond of?
Oh, well, there are so many. Why don't you choose?
All right, you know what? And I haven't done this search. I did my master's thesis on the Oneida community.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's see what we have here. And this is what I love about the databases. Once we start to type, it's going to say, do you mean? And it's going to give us some choices. So I'm going to say, yes, that is what I mean. And I'm just going to hit search. I didn't limit this in any way, any particular period. If I wanted to, I could have 1800s. The only thing I asked for was full text. So when I start to look and I only have 20 results, which is about right, there aren't that many articles. So once I start to look down some of them, I can decide whether it is something I want to keep. I could decide whether I want to continue moving on. Human happiness and... So let's say I decide this is the article I want. I open it up and there are several things that I can do to it. I can save it to my Google Drive, I can print it, I can email it, etc. What I always tell students, most importantly, I can also cite it. One of the big advantages of using the databases are these built-in citations. You don't require them to use Chicago, I'm assuming, correct?
No.
Okay. So APA or MLA, depending. There is one professor at, I believe, Kendall who requires Chicago.
Hmm.
I know. Because somebody made an appointment with me and said, "Can you check my footnotes?" I'm like, "Oh, footnotes." So you can have them use the appropriate one, and it does have a built-in reference. I can go back to my list if I wanted to. I don't have that many results, but if I had an overwhelming number, I could continue to add. Maybe I'm looking for something that only has sturbiculture. This now I have two. So I can further narrow a topic. If I needed to make something a little bit broader, this is not working. I could clear it. I could go back to it. It also keeps this nice running list of everything that I had before, so easy to go back and forth. I could change, if you notice on the left, if I then wanted to make sure something was peer reviewed, I could check it and add it at that point. If I was looking for things published more recently, I could change the publication date quite easily by sliding my ruler back and forth. So it's pretty user-friendly. And the good thing about EBSCO is every EBSCO database looks the same. They all have this general kind of generic database appearance with the boxes, the and or not as connectors. The only difference is what they are searching. So in this case, you can see searching history reference source up at the top. Questions?
Oh, very good. Is there a manual available for students where they'd be able to look up anything they need or forget or need refresher on?
We have videos. We
Hmm.
have 2 to 3 minute little clips on how to use the databases. There is not a manual per se that I'm familiar with for searching, but we definitely have search tips and things like that on various LibGuides, and I
Hmm.
can find those and send them to you.
Hmm. Gotcha. Okay.
So I'm going to leave this one open.
Hmm.
And now I'm going to go to JSTOR. And this is the, in my,
Kimberly, if you can hear me, I'm afraid you've frozen up.
let me do, here we go.
There we go. There we go.
All the wonderful things about technology. So when I'll go back one screen,
Oh,
this is what it looks like. Did it take it off again?
no, I'm
Okay.
right where you are.
Okay. So JSTOR, this is what it looks like when you first open it. It just has one search box. I prefer it to look like EBSCO and a more traditional database. So I always start with advanced search. And that way I can, again, kind of control how many terms I use. I can also limit it by field. If you're just searching in the one text box, it is possible to get a million results and not necessarily understand why you're getting a million results. So I did my favorite. Do you have a favorite? And if it's something broad, we can work on how we can get it down to a narrow topic if you want.
Um, Perhaps German tanks of World War II.
Okay. So I'm going to start by putting World War II, and today is, of course, D-Day.
Hmm.
So I'm going to put this in, leave it as all fields. And then I'm going to put in tanks, and I'm going to add a row, and I'm going to put in German or Germany. Notice the select and access. Content I can access. Again, this is kind of important. There are various levels to JSTOR, and the state of Florida has one level, and we want to make sure that we are getting things that we can use. So then it says, well, what are you looking for? I'm going to put articles because I'm not sure how many students want books, and reviews are reviews of books, of course. Language, I will limit it to English only because you asked me for the German component, and so there might be articles in German. This is right. This is one of the things I love about JSTOR because it is so interdisciplinary and they have so many of the social sciences. You can further limit it to various things. So if I wanted to limit it to art and art history, think about that. World War II, German tanks in art history. So it does have a very interesting, I'm going to leave everything up here, but please note it's there. And then I'm going to all the way at the bottom say submit. And you can see how many results we're starting with, 6,000. So at this point, I probably need to do a little bit of limiting. Maybe I put in the last 10 years. And this is one of those conversations you can have with your students as a general rule for things that are technology, medicine, things that change rapidly. We recommend 1 year, no more than 3. General searches, we recommend 5, but history is always that outlier because it could have been published 50 years ago and still be considered relevant to the field. But because we're starting with so many, I'm going to limit this to the last 10 years. So 2014 to 2024. And I'm going to hit apply. And now I'm down to 800, which is still a lot. So at this point, I think I might have to limit it just a little. Let's see if there's anything here that strikes my fancy. I'm going to do history in general. Now I'm down to 265. Could I further limit it? Absolutely. I could put in a specific term. Maybe I'm looking at the impact from the Battle of El Alamein. Maybe I'm looking at Rommel. Maybe I'm looking for something more specific. So if that were the case, I could continue to add terms until I get to a manageable number. I can also start to read some of the titles. Notice that the reason these are coming up, even though we asked for German, is because the word German or Germany and that first German tank, the article itself doesn't necessarily have to be primarily about that, but the words do have to appear. If I wanted to make sure, then I could go back to my advanced search. Oh, I took it away. Okay. I need to, in this case, German or Germany in the title. And World War II and tanks, articles, and English. And let me see if that makes a difference by putting Germany in the title. And now I have 0. So no articles specifically about German tanks. Go back then to my 256. So at this point, I have to decide how I would want to continue with this. And maybe at this point, it's tweaking it a little as well. And I always like to, although the first one, US and German field artillery, a comparison. I always like to say searching is an art and a science. Sometimes it's a matter of playing with it a little bit in order to find exactly what you're looking for. There aren't nearly as many options in JSTOR for saving the article. It's pretty straightforward. I can download it, I can save it, and I can cite it. So the saving to Google Drive and OneDrive and emailing it, those options aren't necessarily available. But for students who are looking for, I would think, a little bit better quality article or something a little bit more substantial than EBSCO, this is an excellent choice. Questions about how I got here, how we can tweak some of our searches?
Very good. Would you further characterize the difference between JSTOR and EBSCO in other ways, or?
The way I would say is most significant is what they subscribe to. So JSTOR is international and it is social science. So it is fields across, as you could see, going down this list, everything from, A to Z, quite literally. EBSCO, they have specific databases or journals rather that they subscribe to, that they contain. And in the history database, they are going to be specifically related to history. So you're not looking at necessarily the breadth and depth, I would say, as JSTOR. I will say without JSTOR, I would not have been able to pass my program.
Can I interject something in here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you, would you characterize also JSTOR? I've always kind of thought of it as more of an archival kind of resource. So I would think you're more likely to find older things.
Yes.
Would you agree?
EBSCO, definitely. And one of the things, I'm going to go back to that list. One of the things I love about EBSCO is when it tells you how old the oldest article is. And this one, it's only 1963, but I have done searches on topics, not necessarily history topics, just topics in general. And the oldest article is from the 1800s. So it depends on where they're pulling it from. I think the difference is a lot of the journals that are in JSTOR have simply been around longer. And so as far as getting some of the articles from the earlier part of the 1800s, yes, that is absolutely possible. The other major difference, I limited mine to journals, but if I limited it to books, they are pulling from the university presses. So Princeton, Chicago, I know North Carolina's on there. So some of the things that are accessible that way are absolutely amazing. But again, possibly a higher level. It depends on the student, their interest, etc. I'm going back to the A to Z list. Normally, I would go through the African American experience, but we were experiencing technical difficulties with this one this morning. So I'm going to leave that as a ... to be continued, and hopefully it will come back online at some point. America, History, and Life. When it says EBSCO, again, this is going to work almost exactly the same as the previous EBSCO. Do you ever have the need for your students to look for images?
Not really, but I'm sure they have an interest in that.
I'll show you ARTStor. It's run by the same people as JSTOR, and it is a absolutely phenomenal database of images. So I'm going to put in D-Day because that is today. Let's see what we get. 478. And this is a way that students can ethically find materials to use in papers and for research purposes, etc. It has a number of nifty ways that you can search this one. And again, search within, you can search by collection, you can search by type. If you're looking, these are going to be mostly photographs, I would assume, but if you're looking for paintings or any other type of media. So it has quite an interesting capabilities list. You can then see the creator on it and then the subjects itself. So if you wanted to look at others that are in the same category, you can click on that and it'll open up a window with those. It does tell you the source and all of the information, including how it can be used, but the detail and the citing of the sources. So I usually go into humanities classes and show how to use ARTStor so that they can find images for comparison. But it also works if you are looking for images to put in PowerPoints or on your Canvas shell. And it's just fun to sometimes play with it because you can put in descriptions. So bust of Caesar. And it will take what you give it. As compared to just putting in Caesar, and then it would give me more. So going back to the A to Z list, biography, if you have students and you want them to write reports, biography in Context by Gale is essentially just that. It is a very simple database. You put in the name of a person and it will give you sometimes multiple biographies, different publications, etc. So I'm going down and I'm going to point out a couple as kind of a group. If you are looking not necessarily for your students for research, but if you are looking for documentaries or clips that you can put into your own teaching, etc., then we have a subscription to Canopy, which are documentaries, foreign films, award-winning films. And the nice part about Canopy is if you're looking for a documentary and it is not in their database, you can request it. And depending on what it is, if it is a digital version, then they can add it. And even if it's short term, if you say, I need this for this class period, they will try to get you access to it. And if you're looking for PBS, this is one of my favorite databases. PBS Video is every single documentary ever made for PBS. And
wow.
access, I know. Right. It's about 1,600 of them. When we got access to this, honestly, the first thing I did, and I was talking to one of my coworkers today, I am so geeky. I went and watched all of Ken Burns' Civil War series. I hadn't seen it since it came out a while ago. And so I decided, you know what? I've got access to it. And that was the first thing I did.
Are
So
transcripts available of those videos?
I think for some of the newer ones, you can see okay, I'm hitting pause, and you can see search transcripts. So yes, this one definitely has a transcript, and it should be here at some note. And I know I watched the one on the women getting the right to vote, and that one did. Oh, here's captioning, but there should also be
Is it
a
up at the top?
place. Is it up at the top? Oh, the one that says transcript. I'm looking at the bottom. Thank you.
It'll be a while till we can see it.
Yes, transcripts. I think it might depend on the age. I'm not sure if some of the older PBS, that one you might want to test, especially if you are looking for something with a transcript and see if it's there first. But every PBS documentary, it's kind of awesome. So,
Sure. Is there a way to limit your search to videos with transcripts?
that I don't know. Let me see. So, filter my results. No. But let me see if I do one of the older ones. So there are 8. Okay, well, so let's see. This is one of the older ones from the 80s, transcript up above. Yep. So I'm gonna guess that
Maybe they all have them.
I'm gonna guess they all have them. And it might be one of the things that they have. Let's see. This one's also from 1985. Yep, transcript up at the top. So.
Great.
And the last one I'm going to show you is the New York Times Historical. So if you do want students to get all the news that's fit to print, let's see. You have a day you'd like to search?
Would we, no, I'm not, how recent would we be able to go? Is there a 1 month delay or?
No, this is the historical. So this one is 1851 to 2020. If you are looking for the current one, then we do have newspaper databases. I'm going to go back to the A to Z and I'm going to clear my selection here. And when I go to database types, I'm going to put news. And then you can see we have America's News Bank. And then Florida News Bank, that's just a smaller, it's the same database, but it's only focusing on the Florida. So America's News Bank, these are the current newspapers.
Current up to what extent?
Like yesterday.
Oh, what I meant is how far back do they go?
So News Bank is relatively 20, 30 years.
Okay, wonderful.
And then the historical one is 1851 to 2020.
Sure.
So between the two of them, we've basically got 1850 to the present. So I'm just going to put in President Lincoln. So he has been in the New York Times 130,000 times. Not too bad. But you can see, this is one of the things I love. It says, are you looking for? So if I were really looking for, before he was president, what the earliest that they had reported on him, I could look at the 1850s or 311 records. Or if I'm looking for the 3,000 times during his presidency, the Civil War, slightly after his death, and then, wow, 13,000 times in the 1930s. Is that 145,000 times in the 60s? Interesting. So I can slide this over. I can adjust it that way. I can hit update. And now I've got the 300 from this time period. I do want full text. And that won't change as much here, but on the off chance it does. And then if I wanted to continue to add terms, I could. So let's see, and speech. Now I'm down to 57. So in the 1850s, debate would have probably been a better one. And their reply to Senator Douglas' speech of. And then they give you the actual newspaper. And they do let you save it and show it as others, but this is what the true historians go through, is what you would share with them.
Sure. Are you able to copy and paste from it?
No. Nope. They have literally scanned all of their pages, because when you can go in, you can look at it, you can download it, but it is going to download it like this as the article.
Does the Miami-Dade any facility to convert PDF to Word or vice versa?
Not for this. So there are websites, Small PDF is one of them, any kind of OCR software, but that is not something MDC does.
Gotcha.
But if you want them to go to the original source, then this is as original as it gets.
Sure, sure.
So those are essentially the major, I'm going to go back to history, the major history databases. And if you do assign a research project, a librarian either on your campus, Jenny or myself, would be happy to present to your class if you are interested on how to use our databases. It's one of the things we generally enjoy doing.